Yeah. Enter in sacred moments. I'm here in this space on this day with you. I'm here in this sacred space witnessing the morning dew. Sacred moments. In voice and in victory, we will share our thoughtful view, conversing and even challenging things we thought we knew. Sacred moments. With expectancy and excitement is this time set aside. Won't you enter in with us? And come on, let's take this ride. Riding the waves of wonder and whimsy, we're not here to do silly or flimsy. We're sacred moments. We are here open to listen and engage and converse. You know I'm going to keep the triune God in sight and first. I'm here with you on this holy mountain of meaning, sharing vowels and syllables, discussing powerful gleanings. It's sacred moments. With songs and sonnets and poems and prose, this is not just another one of those radio shows. It's sacred moments. It's sacred moments with me as your host, here to clear and create and commune with you from coast to coast. It's sacred moments. Enter.
Good morning.
I love the opening. Awesome.
I'm so glad you like it. Our super duper producer, who's off camera right now doing some background things, said to me maybe about a month ago, "Why don't you do a opening?" And it took me some time, but we previewed it last Sunday, and I actually like it a lot. It's
Yes.
ding ding.
Close my eyes. I was in it. I was feeling it. I enjoyed it.
Woosa.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, good morning to our listeners nationally and internationally on all of our different social media sites and radio sites. We welcome you again to Sacred Moments. We welcome you to Sacred Moments. My name is Reverend B. Michelle Horton, and I am your host for today. Like I said, our co-host, Adija Phillips, alter ego, which is our super duper producer. She's going to be off screen for a bit. She's doing some background stuff as we continue to learn and grow in this field of radio and international and national radio. We are so happy to have you here. And we have a special guest. I'm going to introduce her to you on the air. And we are also live on Facebook, YouTube, and we will be in other venues a little later on as we post this. Her name is Dr. Tashina Reeder, and I have known her for many, many, many years. And I am so happy that she agreed to come on the show today. We have a great topic. We're talking about personal responsibility and accountability. Personal responsibility and accountability. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that in a minute. But we like to just kind of start off and just ask each other, like, how was your week? How are things going in your life? And share that with the audience, if you would.
Oh, sure. This week has been actually pretty awesome. I am just taking steps to step outside my comfort zone to do some new things. I actually began swimming classes. I put a post on Facebook saying, "Your girl gonna be in the next Olympics. Y'all better watch out," right? But I always wanted to learn. I've known how to swim, but of course, when you're younger, kids, playing and not understanding the seriousness when you push people in the water, how traumatic that could be. And I had that experience. And from that, I just decided I will never swim again. And so now as an adult, I want to do some stuff, Reverend. I want to go be able to swim in the waters when I travel and not be afraid of the water. And so I am taking swimming lessons. So it's been fun.
Let me just say, whoop, whoop. I think that's amazing. Now, you said you had a traumatic experience when you were younger. You are not going to believe this, but I actually did as well, which I still don't know how to swim, but I had a sacred moment recently, and I wrote a story about it, where I was able to get over the fear of it. So it was a step, it's a step going forward. But it's interesting that you had one and I had one when I was a child. I think I was in maybe second or third grade or something. And the teacher thought it would be helpful because I didn't want to get in the water to push me in the water. And I don't know why, he thought that was a good thing to do, but that moment really just, it was traumatic. So yeah. Well, you're taking personal responsibility and getting through it and getting over it and doing something
and loving it. I am having the best time ever.
Oh, I'm so glad. Well, listen, we want to kind of get into the show, but I want to read your bio. Oh, well, excuse me. I have a question to ask. Now, we usually Alter Ego asks this question of all of our guests. We usually ask one or two quirky questions. So I'm going to ask her quirky question since she's all in the background today. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
I probably could name a couple, but if I had one to choose from, the first thing that just came to my mind was reset. A reset button. Yeah, I don't know about God. Okay, a reset, a do-over.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a superpower that's out there in Marvel land, but a reset button.
You know what? I think that if we ask what superpower would you want, it means that you can create whichever one you want to have.
Yeah.
Reset sounds good to me.
Yeah, that just popped in my spirit. Reset. I'm okay. I'm gonna go with reset.
Let's go with that. Okay, we have one more question. If you could only listen, this is going to be kind of hard, to one album for the rest of your life, what would that album be? Ooh.
That is hard.
It is hard.
Yeah. One album for the rest of my life? My whole entire life? The rest of
Listen, yes. That would be the only one you had. You could choose one to take with you on your desert island.
Different names are popping up in my head. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'll get tired of that. First name popped up was Anita Baker. Then it popped up Karen Clark Sheard. I'm like, yeah. So those two names popped up in my head.
Okay. Well, since albums are kind of out, you can stream. What song playlist would you stream?
Right.
Yeah. That would be hard for me too.
Yeah,
I do have some top 10 songs though, but and I could listen to them forever. To be actually, yeah. Well, listen, let me read your bio because I want to share with our audience pretty much who you are and how we're going to get to open up this conversation. And it says here, Dr. Tashina Reeder. She's a native of Philadelphia. She's a creative mind, lover of travel, food, art, music, dance, string instruments. I thought was interesting. A violin is one of my favorites. So I don't know if that's one of yours.
I have a guitar.
Oh,
acoustic guitar. Yeah.
I'm learning more and more about you. And she loves to read a good novel. She is a therapist, author, educator, speaker, and coach. Dr. Reeder is the founder of Soul Care Services and I Manifest Academy. I want to come back to that. So put a pin in it and bring me back if I don't come back.
Absolutely.
She has a clinical practice, and my screen just kind of went crazy. A clinical practice and an educational platform that empowers women to survive and thrive using education, storytelling, visualization, and practical strategies to promote healing and fearless personal growth. Listen, this is a bio audience. I hope you're hearing that. And like many of us, Dr. Reeder has had her share of life challenges that have become her strength and God-given purpose. She suffered in silence for many years due to the shame of life circumstances. Through faith, prayer, and therapy, I need to repeat that for our audience. Through faith, prayer, and therapy, Dr. Reeder reached a level of healing and transparency that has been liberating and ever evolving. I want to come back to that because I so understand that point. Dr. Reeder believes her go through is someone else's get through. And as a result, she speaks, teaches, and empowers women to move beyond their pain to bring about healing and self love. Known as the confidence cultivator. I didn't know that you were known as that. And the transparent educator, Dr. Reeder uses her clinical training and life experiences to lead women to victory by tapping into their inner power to reclaim their worth and confidence to create a life they desire to live in harmony with each other. I want to tell you that the word harmony has been something that has been rising up in me for the last couple of weeks very strongly. And I want to start by asking you about your quote that's on your bio.
Yes.
It says, an empowered soul has no limits.
Yeah.
And I think that out of everything that I read and I want to talk about, I love that quote. An empowered soul has no limits. So, good morning to all our people that are in the chat. Missy, and I think I saw Kalitha. Good morning. Good morning. If you have any questions, put them in the chat and we'll try to get to them. But let's start off with this. Okay. An empowered soul has no limits. What do you mean by that?
You know, that quote was ever evolving. It was something that really spoke to my resilience. I didn't always feel empowered, but I always had a desire to go beyond what I thought was available to me. And what I mean by that is there was times in my life where I was really insecure, or I really think I couldn't do a thing. But I desired to do it, but I was so afraid to do it, to step out that comfort zone. And so as I, again, through prayer and therapy and faith, I understood that, wow, I could, as you could do all things through Christ. I can do all things. I can do all things that's within me that God has given me to do. So I began to really tap into my own inner strength and say, I want to do this. I want to try that. And there's no limit to what you can do. So being an empowered soul is really the essence of who we are. We can empower ourselves to go beyond our wildest dreams. And for me, was that my empowered soul, we don't have limits. We can reach for the stars. We can reach for what we thought we couldn't do with, for me, it was through faith that the resiliency within me would empower me to take that next step. Okay. I think we all have different thresholds. And so for me, it was just limitless, right? Do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think
that sounds like courage, though, also to, well, for me, I'm hearing, and because I've kind of had a path a little similar, you know, in overcoming and in not just being alive, but thriving. And so that does look different for all of us. Would you say that's correct? But like, how did you know that you had an empowered soul? Was it something inherent, or was it something that was always coming up out of you, maybe evolving to the point where you recognized it and you took personal accountability,
Yes,
acknowledgement for it?
that part. Exactly. It was evolving, and I didn't always know I had it within me. It was Pastor Tory Roberts. He did a recent sermon titled "I Didn't Know I Was Me," and I was like, I didn't know I was me. Meaning, you always had it in me. You always have it in you, but we don't recognize ourselves to be that person because we have to grow into that. We have to live. We have to have some experiences, and those experiences helped me to tap into that part of me that became empowering, right? Taking that personal accountability, taking that deeper dive into facing my own heart truths, taking that accountability and freeing myself of some things, right? That I begin to recognize that. And I'm continuing to grow and recognizing more stuff about me, like, wow, taking the guitar lessons, for a guitar. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've always loved string instruments. I can do this, right? And so there's so much within us that we can do. But if we can tap into that, I think we all can be an empowered soul that we have. I think just a well of things that we can tap into, overflow, a well of things that we are gifted at doing if we just look within and take the steps to birth it, if that makes sense.
It makes sense to me. And one of the things that I'm sure that it's going to take more than an hour or 45 minutes to talk about. And, maybe this will be something like for a conference. What is, and this is what caught me to ask you to be on the show. This post that you did, I think it was on your Facebook page or either on your website. Facing hard truths about yourself can be difficult, but necessary for real growth and healing to occur. This is what you wrote. When you engage in activities and behavior that do not serve you, but hurt others and undermine your growth, it's time to check yourself before you wreck yourself. Get your act together. Listen, we can all do a self-check. And you wrote, reflect, relate, release. Now, here is where, as a mentor and as a person of life experience, a person of faith, where I see maybe the biggest hurdle is facing the truth about yourself. In you as being a therapist and myself as being a mentor, and I don't call myself a life coach at all. I'm more like just your sister friend, minister who offers hopefully holy and biblical guidance. Having someone face the truth about themselves, it's difficult, and I see it as one of the greatest roadblocks in our growth, because sometimes people tend to look at the other person and what they're not doing, or in relationships, and and bringing them back to themselves is so difficult. How do you face the hard truth about yourself? And I think this is a hard question.
It is a very hard question. I think you're absolutely right. When it's easy to look at the other person in relationship to some of our experiences, but we don't live in a vacuum, right? And so we're in a relationship with people, right? I'll say this: when you're talking about facing the hard truth, there comes a level of vulnerability that's a part of that, and that's scary, right? Being vulnerable is scary, even with yourself. Acknowledging that, wow, I have some parts of me that's not so kind, or I have parts of me that is very insecure, and then having to unpack that takes you to another place of an experience that you want to avoid. We're good at running, right? Running looks like avoidance. We will avoid it. And sometimes those things we avoid begins to stink. And why that's coming to me, but it begins to smell because it comes out in your attitude. It comes out in how you parent. It may come out in how you're in your marriage or in your relationship with others. And so when you begin to unpack that pain, because really what happens, we find oftentimes, is unpacking our hard truths, there's some pain there that we don't want to feel. We want to avoid.
Absolutely.
There's some things we may have done that cause pain that we want to avoid and ignore and act like it doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
And so looking at that is hard work. It's a lot of hard work. And I'm an advocate not for therapy, not because I'm a therapist, but because it works.
I'm an advocate for therapy because it works.
Right.
I'm in total agreement with you.
Mm-hmm. Therapy, but I also go to my spiritual therapy with the Father, with God. I'm like, all right, Lord, listen, I gotta come. Sometimes you have to do both, and really looking at. And I'm gonna use myself for an example. For years, you hear that saying, with women, know your worth, know who you are, love yourself, right? And while that's a cliche saying, everyone says it, but sometimes it's hard to really grasp that concept. How do you know your worth? I do love myself, but then your behaviors aren't consistent with you loving yourself, right? And so for me, I know that I thought I love myself, I feel worthy, but my behaviors weren't speaking to that. And so I had to really unpack that. When did I begin to feel unworthy? Because the things that I was doing wasn't speaking to one feeling of worth. And I realized it took me back to my childhood. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go there. We don't want to go there. But oftentimes you have to go there. And I realized that there were some things that I've experienced from my parents. And nothing against my parents. My parents did the best that they could. But, I think as parents, they had their own life experiences that they never attended to. Yeah. And so here you are parenting from a place and not realizing it's coming from a place of hurt or pain that you never addressed. And so now you're raising kids and we're in the midst of that. And so I realized, that's where it began.
This is so perfect what you're saying.
Right. And so once I realized that, I actually had to go to my mom and talk with her. We had a talk and it was so healing to go to that place to say, Mom, this is where it all began. I think it was healing for both of us because then she was able to acknowledge, I never, growing up in a Black family, our business is our business. We don't talk about it outside of the household. You just move on, you push forward, and you just do the best you can because we had to. And so having to go back to that place of pain was healing for me. And I understood better now what my mom went through. So I had grace for her. I'm like, wow. And so from that point, I realized, oh, wow, I was only, I was functioning in the place or in the place of trying to prove my worth and show my worth through actions. And see, I'm a good girl from a childhood of things I've, experienced. And so when I realized where that comes from, I'm able to change that for myself as an adult. And so everyone's story is different. Everyone has their own stories of feeling unworthy. And I think that's the place where to start in that situation. Again, we all have our own life experiences of shame, embarrassment, judgment, all types of things. But you have to go back to that place and unpack that. And it's hard work.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that what our audience is really chiming in with different statements that in agreement. It's okay not to be okay. Valerie says, Missy asked, and I think you're answering me that, what things limit our growth, and understanding that if we face them, then we will do what you're saying, that we will be getting our act together. We will become the people that we were created to be. I really appreciate you said when you engage in activities and behaviors that don't serve you. And sometimes what I see in the world, we've been cultured to think that these behaviors and activities do serve you, but they don't. Sometimes they just mask your hurt and give you an easy way out. I think that's where addictions and things like that. I'm not the therapist, but I think that's where addictions and things come in like that. I recognize I had this conversation with someone recently, and we were talking about, when you were younger, what things would you have wanted to change? And this is not me, again, talking about my parents or, my elders as we grew up in a household. But for us, we were very, very poor, but we did eat together all the time. And food was love. So now food has taken, I'm thinking I'm loving myself because I'm overeating, right? I'm talking about myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to recognize that I wasn't loved. That's a behavior that harms me, although it was making me feel good because it was pacifying me and taking me back to some memories that were happy, but in the end, it was misplaced.
Mm-hmm.
So I really appreciate this line that you put, facing hard truths about yourself. It can be difficult, but you
Mm-hmm.
put that it was necessary. And so, as we are, talking to our audience is listening, for that person that's out there right now that feels that prompting that, maybe this show was for me. And that you've been struggling with not seeing what you need to see, take that chance. You're listening to two women who have walked through some hard realities and truths,
Yeah.
and those and we have seen them. We're addressing them, still on journey. God knows I'm still on journey, and I'm an elder. But it's bringing growth about, is bringing hope about, is bringing healing, because we are walking in the purpose of who we have been created to be, as we face those hard truths and not let those truths overwhelm us.
As you were speaking, I have a group of women that I work with. I'm actually a student. I'm a part of a mastermind group, and our mindset coach posed a question to us that has been something that I've been holding on to, that I've probably asked the same questions before to other and practice. But I think this is a good place to start with kind of your own healing, is a question of what stories or experiences are you holding on to that we use as justifications for our behaviors.
My God, say that again.
What stories and experiences are we holding on to that we use as justification for our behaviors, right? What proof do we have to justify that that's who you are, right? So many of us are holding on to stories and experiences, and we justify our behaviors from it. Because it's happened, this is why. No. You have to look at that. What are you holding on to? Because if you can identify these things and you can see how you're using that to justify these unhealthy behaviors.
Unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then we need to unpack that. And it's hard, but that's why it's called Hard Truths.
Yeah. Yeah. Carrie says it's so hard sometimes to look at ourselves, but we must. And I like that she said that, if we want healing and growth. Yeah. And I think, doesn't that have to be really what you really want? You know how sometimes people say, I'm gonna use myself, there's been many Mondays. This is the Monday I'm going on my diet. It's always a Monday, it's never like a Sunday or Wednesday or Friday. I always got something to do doing, I'm gonna wait till Monday. This is the Monday, and that lasts till Tuesday, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Because of the comfortability of the habit, and not looking at what you just said. Like, where did that come from? And how has that served you with whatever you're doing? Do you think that, I know this to be true, but do you think that people fight against healing?
Yeah, it hurts.
Their own healing?
Yes, it's painful. You know what, Reverend Horton? We have choices. That's why God said that He gives us free will, right? We make choices. Some of our choices are good and some are not so good, right? And I believe, this is my own belief, that we know deep down inside, we have an inkling, that tells us, that one well, doing or saying or going. But we make choices and we may do it anyway. That doesn't make us bad people. It's called the human condition, right? Choices, and we do.
It's human,
right? Mm-hmm. But I said, what, God, isn't that what when you said all things work together for the good that those are the Christ Jesus, right? So even in my choices, even if they're not the best of choices, I just believe at some point in life it all comes together for such a time as this, where you can talk about it and help others on their journey. And so what I mean by that is that even now, if we're having to face some hard truth about ourselves, about the past, even about the present moment. Yes, it's hard, but it's a choice we're making, right? And I think sometimes we get caught up in judgment or perceived judgment from ourselves, judging ourselves, and also others judging us, right? So let's say this hard truth means I have to admit that I've done wrong to someone else to cause them harm, right?
Yeah.
That means I may have to make amends, which is a saying that happens in the world of recovery. I have to go and apologize, and that's hard. It's humbling. It makes you vulnerable. And no one wants to feel invulnerable. It makes you feel like you have maybe a loss of control because you can't control the other person's response to what you may be coming with.
Yeah.
Or sometimes it could be if I have to be accountable for my choices, we have to be, and we can be guilty of this, being so hard on ourselves. We're not perfect beings. And I tell people, don't strive for perfection. Just do the best that you can. There's no such thing as perfection. We'll drive ourselves crazy to be perfect and do. Listen, we make mistakes. Embrace those mistakes and learn from them. They're meant to harm you, but to grow from them. They may hurt you, but you should grow from that. I think that also adds to how you begin to cultivate who you are, because then you have this wisdom of past mistakes or past things or choices that you've learned from. And so when you face these hard truths, it is scary, but you have to make a choice. You have to be intentional about it. And yes, we will run. Sometimes, listen, you know how many times I had to go in and out of therapy? I would start, and when it gets too tough, I'm like, okay, I'll reschedule next week. And then when it show up, I'm like, oh, something came up. Oh, you know what? I have to reschedule, because the truth of the matter was, it was hard.
Yeah.
I didn't want to cry this session. I didn't want to think about it. But I had to do that hard work. I call it hard work because it is hard work. And once
I know that. I'm sorry.
I'm saying we just have to sit in it sometimes to heal, in order to heal it.
Yeah. One of my turning points when I was in therapy, when my marriage was breaking up, and it was, I did therapy for years, and I go back. I just did 2 sessions on grief therapy because, I lost my mom last year, and I probably need to go back again. But anyway, nevertheless, when I was in therapy and, we were going through the process and pretty much got focused and answers and healing through that. And my therapist said something to me that changed the trajectory, I think, of my life. But I was hot that she, after we finished that area, and she said this to me. I've told this story many times. And she said, Michelle, we talked about a lot of things, blah, 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 blah. And she said these words, now, what about you? I had an attitude because I wanted to talk about him and all the horrible things that he had did, and all the things that my dad did, and I was just going down the list. And she said, "And what simple word? And what about you?" I don't know who's listening. What about you? Those words were the beginning of a deeper healing for me, because they made me look within. And I saw those things little by little that I attributed to some of the problems in my own life and in my relationships and things. And they were healing words. So somebody's listening today. And sometimes we need to ask ourselves, what about me?
Yes.
Because I want to be. Listen, there's a story in scripture of a man who sat at the pool of Bethesda for 38 years. 38 years, he's just sitting, he's seeing people get healed, going into the water and coming out healed, and he's sitting there, and the Savior of the world, the radical rabbi known as Jesus the Christ, comes by and says to him, do you want to be made whole?
Yeah.
This is the question. This is the question for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, there was nobody to take him in.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all of those. I've been sitting here. I wonder, like, did he ever think that he could at least try or see himself? Even if he could crawl, maybe in 38 years, he could have crawled, he could have got in the water. But the point is, Jesus asked him, and he comes with an excuse. And I'm hoping that all of us that are listening today, and we'll listen later, that we'll check our excuses, because our talk today is about personal responsibility and accountability. And if we want to be made whole like that man that was sitting there for 38 years, I believe it's possible. I want to give you another story of a woman with an issue of blood for 12 years who went to doctors and was told that she was never going to get healed, and it was, it was a wrap for her to stay in. And she decided personal accountability, responsibility to press through everything, press through all of the issues, press through all of the people, and touch the hem of his garment. And it says immediately she was made whole. And he says, daughter, your faith has made you whole. Didn't you talk about faith, Dr. Reeder? Didn't you talk about having faith?
I did. That was key for me, though. Again, I'm sure we all have had some life experiences that caused us to fall to our knees. And it was a lot of faith and prayer, a lot of I was tired of being tired. You hear that saying, you get tired of being sick and tired? I was tired, Rev. I was tired of hurting. I was tired of running. I was tired of making excuses. I was tired of really hiding from me. I was tired of situationships. I was just tired. And I remember this night, I just cried.
Bless the Lord.
And I told myself, we're going to do better because I want better. I have to be better. And so it was at that moment, I decided to do better. I had to stop worrying about the thoughts of other people. That was one of my hangups too, because of life experience. Everybody gonna think and say. If I do, listen, they gonna think and say what they want. Right now, it's about you. And you getting your healing. Whatever it looks like for you is how it's gonna look like for you. And I had to not get caught up and worried about what they thought. And guess what? That's been so freeing. Listen, it's been so liberating. And I posted about this recently, to dance to the beat of your own drum. You're not like everybody else. Get your healing. If that means you go see a therapist, you go see a therapist. That means you need to pray or remove yourself from people, places. Remove yourself. It's okay. Because guess what? At the end of the day, it is you. What's it say? Me, myself, and I. Yeah. You have to be accountable for your activities and behavior. You can't change other folks. Yeah. You can change you.
Yeah. So I am an advocate of therapy, and I am saddened when I, asked to, walk along someone, and I recognize I'm a ordained clergy, right. So I've had background in certain, things when it comes to. I am not a counselor, but guidance, and when I recognize that I can't walk with them into that professional space, because that's what you do.
Right.
It saddens me when that's rejected, or people, I say, make an excuse not to do it. Mm-hmm. What would you say to someone? Because you're a therapist and you have that background, and you're a person of faith, and I know you to be a woman of honor. I know you to be kind and caring. I mean, I think that sometimes it's such a detriment to the person that won't step into that next level of healing. Mm-hmm. Help somebody out today.
As a therapist, you can't, of course you can't tell someone what to do. You just have to meet them where they are, because this is actually their process. So while you can see it,
okay,
and it's painful to watch them go through, but they have to go through it.
Okay.
Because this is their experiencing and learning lessons. And so when they come to you, you're just helping them to unpack and to further process what has been learned from week to week, or how often they're seeing you based on these experiences. And sometimes people are in this place for years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's painful to watch them go through that. And I always say people's level of readiness is different.
Okay.
And so I believe it becomes to a point where they have to make a choice, a decision. Sometimes some life experiences cause you to make some decisions to say, okay, it's time for me to change. And I think sometimes, depending on what needs to change, is really they're wrestling with fear and shame, judgment.
Thank you.
And so while they have in mind, I want to do this, but I'm so scared that I'm going to get backlash, or I'm so scared I'm going to lose this relationship, or I'm so scared that I'm not going to be liked. I'm so scared, all these things, that if I do this, what will change look like for me? Because you can't predict what's going to be on the other side of change.
Yeah.
They just know that in the process, it's hard and it's scary. It's almost like a blizzard. Thank you, Lord. It's like a blizzard, snow blizzard. You're like pushing through the storm, the wind and the snow is hitting your face. You want to back up somehow, put your hood on. You're just pushing your way because you can't see through it. So you got to push. That's similar to your healing. You have all these experiences hitting your face, reminding you of who you are. I remember you used to do this, and you're trying to push your way through till you can see to the blizzard stops until you can get on the other side. That's just like life when trying to heal. You have to push through the pain, the naysayers, the people who remind you of who you used to be.
Yeah.
And you just have to press, and it's hard. And it can take time. Some people years, some people happens overnight, depending on what they're attempting to change. But it's a process. Yeah. And I always tell people, your process is your process. You don't have to rush it to please someone else. And I always say to those supporters who are supporting a person, be with them in the moment and encourage them. Acknowledge that they're trying, right?
Yeah.
And remind them of the good that they're doing and taking those steps to make that change. And they're going to have setbacks. They're going to have setbacks.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
They're going to go with the fault of what's comfortable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because change can be difficult and scary.
Yeah.
But once you continue to press your way and remain steadfast, it's a beautiful thing when you get to the other side. And sometimes healing is almost like a marathon. So you know how you run, you get tired, they pass you that water along the way. Sometimes you have to. That might be a phase in your journey where, okay, I reached a level of healing. I'm good. Yeah, I'm all right. I'm sipping that water. Now I gotta finish the race. So now you're going through the next phase, and you go and you press it. Somebody give you some water. Now you can rest and breathe. Okay, I have accomplished this. I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not where I used to be because now I'm here. So you just gotta keep running. And then when you get to a place where you're feeling okay, I've healed that. God gave you some water and some fresh breath.
Yeah.
To take the next phase of your journey. And so I just believe it's a journey. It's a process. Your process, embrace it. It's not always easy. Does it feel good all the time? No. But guess what? You learn so much. I'm telling you, you can look back and see how much you've grown.
Yes. Yeah.
And where you are in your evolution.
Yeah.
I would say celebrate you too along the way that you're doing it.
Yeah. And I as we're coming to a close of our show, and I want you to tell our audience, how they can reach you and your work. I pray that people have been encouraged today when we started off talking about, that you're worth it. And the thing is that we're worth the work that it takes to be and become, as the Lord has said, everything that we can be and become. We're worth that effort. I know a lot of women, listen to the show, men and women, but especially as women, sometimes we tend to always want to nurture and heal and fix others, and we leave ourselves thirsty. And I think that today's show can help us to look within. This is about our personal responsibility and accountability to see how we can heal, how we can grow. you said something earlier that, we're not perfect. Yes, we are not perfect. And that's God's job.
Mhm.
God, we're not called to be perfect. We're called to be perfected in the Lord. And so as we let go, we become vulnerable. We
Mhm.
seek therapy. We activate our faith. We pray truthfully about what our hurts and wounds are. I believe that collectively we can just grow up in ourselves. So tell us where people can get in contact with you at, your soul care services. I want you to come back. I want to talk about Manifest Academy. It's a word that's been something I want to talk about going forward. So we'll do that later, and your practice, and then we'll leave out hopefully with people being hopeful in the place of healing.
Okay. On social media, you can find me at Dr. Tashina Reeder on Facebook. On Instagram, it's the same handle, Dr. Tashina Reeder. My website is drtashinareeder.com. So it's all my name, Instagram, Dr. Tashina Reeder, same thing on Facebook and the website. I'm also having a free masterclass called The Power of You, from fear to fierce. It's a free masterclass I'm having on August the 28th. Is on Zoom. To register, you can find it on those handles on Facebook at Dr. Tashina Reeder on Facebook, and Dr. Tashina Reeder on IG, to register for the free masterclass. And so I'm excited about that. For therapy, same contact information if you're interested in receiving therapy services with me through Soul Care Services.
I hope that someone would sign up for either the free masterclass and or those that right now you're feeling that prompting. Oh my God, I didn't know that we were going to talk about this today, but it's so timely. I hope that you get in touch with Dr. Tashina Reeder, because I confirm and affirm that she is a wonderful woman of faith, one that has a caring and loving and comforting and strong understanding of her profession, and uses all that she is, her past, her present, to help us have a better future. Please reach out to her, Dr. Tashina Reeder, on any one of those social media sites and her website. And you know what? Let's heal together. It's a good thing. Let's heal together, arm in arm, hand in hand, heart in heart, and we can, make an impact in this world. Thank you for being our guest this morning.
Thank you
I
for
so
having me.
appreciate you. And if you want Dr. Tashina Reeder to come back, put that in the chat, and we'll try to convince her to come back at some time in the near future, and we'll continue this conversation and go a little bit deeper into her soul care services and I Manifest Academy. We hope that you have an absolutely wonderful, wonderful day. Tell somebody about the show, like it, share it, send it to somebody that may just, that they need a word of encouragement or a little help and push with healing. We're in this together. This is Sacred Moments with Reverend B. Michelle Horton, co-hosting and super duper producer, Khadija Phillips, alter ego, and our very special guest, Dr. Tashina Reeder. Bless you. Have a wonderful,
Thank
wonderful
you.
week.
You too.